Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. My name is James Adebayo, and I'm standing in for our very own Chinaye, who is supposed to be the host for today, but she's out at a private event, so I would stand in for her, and I hope I can do justice to to the work of facilitating this great session. I'm excited to be here today, and I tell you, this masterclass would be quite educative, informative, and we want it to be as interactive as possible. Beyond that, I am so excited for our speaker today. I'm sure you will love to hear from her as she brings great insight to the world of human resource. Before I formally introduce her, I would like to welcome those joining um, us for the first time in our many sessions, be it information session, be it masterclass. Um, BNet Learning is really happy to have you join today. And you can know more about BNet Learning by going onto our website, www.bnetlearning.com, to learn about all of our trainings, be it on business analysis, on project management, or on data analysis. So find the time to go onto our website. The website again is www.bnetlearning.com to stay abreast of all of our trainings and many more of our information session or masterclass coming up later this year. Before we go right into the business of today, just a few housekeeping items um, to let you know that attendees are muted on the call upon arrival, not meaning that we do not want you to interact with us. We do want you to interact with us, but just for decorum, for less distraction, all attendees are muted. But the chat box is available for as many questions, as many interaction, comments, and feedback all through the masterclass. So please, attendees on the call, we would like for you to interact with us via the chat box. Please put in your questions, your comments, and your feedback across the time of this masterclass. Also, we would like to know you, where you're joining us from. So for everyone on the call today, we would like for you to just go right into the chat box and put in your name and the location where you're joining us from. Please put right now in the chat box your name and the location where you're joining us from. For myself, James, and I'm joining from Calgary. James joining from Calgary. So as many people on the call today, please go right in. I can see Temi Tope from Nigeria. I can see a few Princess joining from Nigeria. I can see Dorcas joining from Nigeria. So quite a lot of people joining. Musa joining from Ogun State. Thank you everyone for joining today, and we are excited to have you in the masterclass for today. All right, without further ado, I'm quite happy to introduce our speaker. And just to ensure that our speaker is able to join, we'll just ensure that she's available to join us. And I can see she's already available on the call. So excited to have her join as well. All right, a little bit about our speaker today. Before we move forward. She's a passionate human resource consultant with over 10 years working around the world within multiple multinational, just to name a few. When you hear about General Electric or Amazon, our speaker today had worked in some of those Fortune 500 companies. She's currently working with one of the biggest, or arguably the biggest, tech company in the world, and she continues to provide insightful and groundbreaking initiatives within the organization that she works. She loves to have fun as well. And our speaker says, I like to listen to music in my spare time. I like to dance. And as well, I like to, test a bit of food from different culture and backgrounds of the world. So I won't say she's a foodie, but she does like to enjoy herself when it comes to the tasting of different delicacies. She holds a bachelor's degree in English from the University of Lagos and a postgraduate teaching certificate from Sheridan College here in Canada. She's also certified professional HR practitioner, and she continues to develop and improve herself with various trainings and certification. I won't bore you so much with our speaker's profile. I'll let her do that herself when she joins. But please make welcome with a round of virtual applause our speaker today, Note Akotire. Note, over to you and welcome to the masterclass today.
Thanks a great deal. Hi, everyone. Can you hear and see me clearly? Is my face in the middle of the screen? Because I'm not too sure. Because I feel like
it is.
It is? Okay.
Yes, you're good.
Wanted to make sure. Hi, everyone. I can see the comments already coming through. It's really good to be connected today to be talking through this topic. Major shout out to BNet Learning and the team, John, Dorcas, and James, who have been super, super helpful and have connected me to this session today. It's really, really exciting for me to talk through some of what I prepared. But like James mentioned already, we want this to be an interactive session, right? So I've got a few slides that I'll talk through. And if you've got any questions, you can always put it in the chat box. But also if you've got comments, you've got thoughts, you've got responses, the information that potentially I'm sharing resonates, you can also go ahead and enter in your comments in the chat box. And then once I'm done with the slides, then we'll talk through the questions and then potentially talk through any other clarifying points that anyone on the call has, right? So the thing to keep in mind is that because we want this to be an interactive session as well, we've baked in time to be able to take those questions. So keep them coming for sure. So as James has mentioned, my name is Note Akotire, and I've worked in various HR capacities. So James has especially talked through my profile. But one of the things that I really enjoy when I think about working in HR is a couple of things. Number one is the opportunity to continuously learn and grow every day. Number two is managing and dealing with people. If you have had any experience working with people, you know that no 2 days are alike. So it makes for an exciting day for sure. And then more so thinking about the impact, being able to work in a function that has so much reach and is really accountable and really responsible for many, many decisions that would impact the life cycle of any one employee, but also a bunch of employees working at an organization as well. So for today's session, I'm talking through key considerations for growing your career in the marketplace. Now, there are a few assumptions that I made for this session today. Number one being that I imagine that there are tons of people joining at various stages of their career. So maybe your early career, you just finished university and or NYSC if you're Nigerian, or you're somewhere in the middle of your career, or you're also on the senior level. At any point of your career that you're at, regardless, I'm hoping that whatever I'm sharing will be relevant. So I pretty much, when I was thinking through how to make this relevant and how to make this helpful, I was thinking through how to make it impactful for anyone who was joining, regardless of where they were joining from, and at whatever point in their career they also were joining at, right? So I'm just quickly going to hide this and then we can kick off with the conversation. Okay, so before I dive into my slides, I've got a couple questions. I think of these questions as ones to get us in the mood of things, as one to get us thinking through the topic for today. Please don't feel shy. There are no wrong answers. And you probably already even have an insight into the answers to the questions, but it's more so to just get us thinking about today's session. So the first question is, what do you think are the top 5 skills that are required in the global market today? So top 5 skills. Try and put in the chat box your thoughts. Thankfully, I should be able to see as the chat and as the comments come through. Okay, lovely. Data analysis, communication skills. Keep going. Mujib and Maria, team collaboration, love it. Latifa, I see data analysis, and I see data analytics as well. I see a lot of database management, innovation. We're getting somewhere. Business analytics, love it. Leadership, very important. Problem solving skills, love it. I love all the comments coming through, because it gives me a sense for where we all are at. And a number of you have touched on some of these skills. According to Top Resume, one of the most reputable online resume writing sites, these are the top 5 skills that as someone who's looking to grow their career, you should be thinking through. So when we think critical thinking and problem solving, are you someone who can identify a problem and start to think through how to resolve it? When you're conversing with your employer, with your colleagues, with your peers, how are you responding to whatever issues have been flagged up or have bubbled up? The second one speaks to teamwork and collaboration. We will see a lot more of this as we continue to go through this virtual world of working, where because of the pandemic, we're having to do a lot of virtual work. It's remote. We're able to connect with folks across the world. Collaboration is so critical. The third top skill speaks to professionalism and a work ethic that is strong. So are you one who keeps to your word? When we talk say-do ratio, what you say you will do is what you actually then do. And you're able to manage communication through that process. If you decided you were going to have a report ready in 2 days, approaching the 2-day period, do you let your stakeholders know how things are coming? And if you're not even able to meet that timeline, how do you communicate the expectations as well? And how do you manage the expectations of the people that you're working with? Communication skills, love it. So whether that's oral, when you have to verbally communicate with people, or it's written communication even more so now, if you think about, again, our remote style of working, because there's a lot of information that will be sent back and forth via chats, via emails. Sometimes we might join video calls like this one, this one we're doing this evening, but some of it might just be chats. Keeping in mind as well that written communication doesn't really communicate as much tone or pitch or emotion. How do we clearly communicate as well to our stakeholders? And then the fifth one, a few of you mentioned, is leadership. So one of the things I find interesting is that it's 5 top skills. And data analysis is there as well, I imagine, if we potentially expanded that to top 10 skills. But what I find interesting is that all these skills are more what they call soft skills, right? So regardless of the industry you're in, regardless of the sector, regardless of where you work out from, all these skills will serve you well, regardless of at what point as well in your career that you are in. All these skills are super, super critical. So I've got a second question. And this one as well, I've touched a little bit on, but what, in your opinion, would you say are the top 3 career trends that we've been experiencing in 2021? Again, please put in the chat box so I can see your thoughts. No wrong answers. All answers are pretty relevant. But what would you think are some of the top 3 career trends, especially since the pandemic? So I still see a few other. Okay, so these are a comment from the first question. Just send me your thoughts if you can still hear me, if you can still see me. Tosin has a question here. We'll get to when we come to the point of questions and answer. Okay. I'm not seeing the comments come through yet, so I'm going to move on. But some of the career trends that we're seeing, even right now, are some of what I've touched on already. Remote work. We're seeing a lot of this now as companies continue to grapple with how to get employees back in the workplace for various reasons, from a health standpoint, safety standpoint, but also from a lifestyle standpoint. Because the last 1.5 years, a lot of employees have worked from wherever, mostly from their houses, right? But outside of the workplace. We're seeing more and more virtual interviews as well because of this, more video conferencing. We know the story of Zoom, for instance, and how their stocks appreciated since the pandemic hit, for instance. And then the third career trend that we're seeing is even a key focus on time management. This one as well, we've heard a lot of, where because again, a lot of us are working from home, the lines begin to blur between what is your workplace and what is your home, right? And then we're finding people work super long hours, or we're even finding people not even keeping to a standard 9 to 5. So these are some of the career trends that we're even experiencing in this year. Now, as I walk through some of these answers, think through how you as a candidate, wherever you are in your career, how you're also adapting to some of these trends that we're experiencing. And then I've got a third question. This one is more so speaking to how many people do we think, what percentage rather, of workers have needed to switch careers since COVID hits? And again, no wrong answers. Would you say that it's below 10%? It's more than 10%? It's more than 20%? But how many percent of workers globally do you think have needed to switch careers? Because a lot has happened since COVID happened as well, right? Whole sectors were wiped out job-wise, but then new sectors also have come up with so many opportunities that we previously didn't even think of. We didn't think was relevant. So what percentage of workers do you think globally needed to switch careers? More than 20, love it. Above 50, more than 40%, probably 45%, above 40, 60, love it. Okay, so gonna cut to the response. According to a McKinsey report, it's actually 25% more workers than we have seen pre the pandemic that have had to switch careers, just with how things are changing so rapidly, right? Now, 25% may not look like a lot, but if you keep in mind that we're talking globally, we're not just even talking like within Nigeria or Africa or any one specific continent, but it's across the board. This is a large number, right? So again, some questions to kind of think through how you should be branding yourself as a talent in the workplace, and how you can continue to adapt to some of the new trends that we're seeing in this marketplace as well. So as a global talent, what should you be doing? How should you be thinking about how to succeed? How should you be thinking about making yourself stand out? These are a few thoughts, but for sure, again, continue to add in the comments. If you've got any questions, we'll take it at the end of the slides. But the first one that I thought was relevant to talk through would be getting the basics right. Now, when I say getting the basics right, I would say, again, depending on wherever you are in your career journey, think of your resume or your CV and your cover letter and your research and understanding of how to ace interviews, whether that's virtual interviews or mostly virtual in this case now, or in the odd example where there'll still be face-to-face interviews. Are you working on getting those three things right? So whatever that looks like in your industry, in your sector, have you had a professional look at your resume? Have you had someone also look at your cover letter? Again, it's debatable, and recruiters will go back and forth about whether cover letters are still relevant in this time or not. But if a job posting typically requires you to apply with a cover letter, think of your cover letter as the extra, something that helps you, that tells you a bit more about your skills that are relevant for that role that you're applying to. So it's really, really critical, and some candidates don't pay a lot of attention to this. You'd even be surprised even with senior career candidates, is you really want to make sure that you're keeping up with the trends and updating your resume, updating your cover letter, also working through your interviews. Make videos of yourself, do mock interviews, prep with people who care about you or professionals, talk through, try and figure out how you can continue to speak eloquently, and you can respond to questions, whether that's using the STAR method. Read up on how to get through behavioral questions or hypothetical questions, or any of these other sort of interview questions that are posed to candidates these days. If it's a tech type of role that you're looking at, for instance, work through coding challenges, get yourself more adept in these sort of skills. It's really, really critical to prep and keep prepping. Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared when we talk about getting the basics right. And then the second point of how I think about domain expertise is more so, within what area do you want to do you want to establish yourself? Do you want to establish your talent as well? Now, it's totally okay if you want to do a couple of things, or you want to have your hand in different pies. But it's also critical for you to get clear on what is the core skill that you have, or the core expertise, even if you're still working towards it, even if you don't feel like you're there yet. But what sort of skill do you want to represent on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, right? I forgot to talk about that earlier when I was talking about getting the basics right. Is there consistency across the board in all these various platforms that are speaking for you when you are not there? Someone comes and checks your LinkedIn resume, for instance, or a LinkedIn profile rather, for instance, are they really getting a sense for where your skills lie, and maybe potentially what you've gained exposure in prior to now? Really, really critical. I already have talked about soft skills. And one of the interesting things about soft skills is that there are various layers and various levels to how you can develop your soft skills. I don't think anyone pretty much gets to a point where they say, oh, I'm probably the most emotionally intelligent now, so I'm not going to do anymore, or I'm not going to try anymore. Or, I'm so big on innovation right now, or I believe my critical thinking skills are so great because the customer said to me yesterday, so I don't think there's any more that I can learn in this area. Soft skills really are what continue to distinguish you, even as the higher you go in your career as well. Because the time will come when, as you work as a manager, or even run your own business, or even work as a vendor, or you support big companies, you will start to manage people. And again, managing people takes a lot. So developing your soft skills with the ability to be able to influence people, but in the right sort of way, to be able to talk through your strategy for why you need people to be on board with you with ideas that you have, to be able to think through a problem, and to be able to help other people think through a problem as well, from where the problem is at, but also potential ways and brainstorming ways that you can start to think about dealing those issues. Those are some great tips that you can develop even as you go through your career, regardless of wherever you are in that process. And then I've got a few more thoughts as a global talent, how you can continue to work through distinguishing yourself in the marketplace. Are you one as well who can take a lot of, or even if it's not a lot, but information that appears complex on the surface, and you can think through what the crux of the matter is? You can think through how to simplify that information. Now, again, regardless of the sector, regardless of the area that you are in, can you take information that appears complex to everyone else, and you sit with the problem and you say, what are we trying to drive for here? Right? Like, what is the main point? What are the cogent points here? And what is really, really critical? These are things as well that, regardless of sector, regardless of industry, is super critical. And then the fifth point here is more so about your background, about the things that make you who you are, that make you peculiar in your own way. Everyone has got it, right? And one of the things I found interesting, moving from Nigeria and moving abroad, is that I've seen as well, even with immigrants, is the concern around international work experience, whether or not the experience you have in another parts of the world is as relevant where you have now moved to. Again, if you're working with a professional and you're able to tease out what you've learned in your prior roles, or in your prior companies you've worked in, or in the prior places you've been at, experience is relevant wherever you are. The question now is, how do you make it adaptable for the new environment that you have now moved into, right? So again, don't feel that you have to redefine yourself in such a way that you lose your authenticity, but are able to talk through what makes you who you are. right? Whether that's like your background, your parents, whether that's growing up in Lagos or growing up in Nigeria, whether that's the course that you studied, the fact that maybe you studied a course, but you didn't end up practicing in that area. Maybe you had to do a short diploma, and that's really what kicked you off in this new area of expertise that you're doing work in. Whatever that looks like, again, start to write things down, start to record it, because all that is relevant and all that makes you uniquely you and makes you a unique talent that a decent and a serious employer who's looking for talent should be willing to lean into, because they believe that it's really with the diversity of talent and skills and knowledge in the room that really gets you the best of ideas. Be a 360-degree candidate. Don't be that person who, if you are, a data and analysis kind of person, that's all that you know, right? Talk politics, learn about how the world is developing even within, this current pandemic. Be someone who knows what's going on around you, what's going on in other industries, in other sectors, because all that pretty much adds up. Be the person who knows a little bit of something in everything. If you move somewhere else as well and you realize that maybe they call it soccer, they no longer call it football, that's something that is relevant as well, just from a lingo standpoint. That is still important for you to call it football, and you can still show up if you're maybe given an example, you're like, oh, I watched football today. But you can also potentially say, hey, where I'm from, we call it football versus soccer, for instance. But be that person who knows a little bit of everything, because it's relevant to have domain expertise, but you never know who you're going to run into, who you're going to be networking with, that will just might have a thought on that point that you're making, or might bring up a topic that you have a general sense for, and you can lean into that and you can ask questions and go from there. Everything is a learning opportunity, really, quite literally. Everything is, including disappointments, including no's that you get when you're interviewing or when you've applied to a company, including changing roles, changing locations, leaving that employer who didn't treat you well, or working for that manager who was excellent. Every single thing is a learning opportunity. Again, we have to take a step back and recognize, what is this experience going to teach me? What am I learning from this experience? And what am I going to do better as well? For a lot of us, or I won't say a lot of us because that's an assumption, but for some of us, we probably don't reflect as much as we should when we're looking to apply for roles. Why exactly are we applying to that one big company? Is it because everyone is applying to it, or because we really think that it's relevant to us and our career growth trajectory? We don't spend a lot of time reflecting through why we're doing the things that we're doing. And then when we do get that job that we love, or that is our dream job, do we also reflect about what makes it our dream job? Is it still meeting up to that expectation? What can we learn? What are some skills that we can lean into that maybe we didn't even have joining the company previously, or we realize is now important? And how can we continue to lean in that area to even improve, right? And then even if things don't work out, or if they do work out, but then you feel like you've outgrown that role and you want to move on somewhere else, again, reflecting to think through, what were the things you learned? What were the things that stood out for you? What did you learn about yourself? What strengths did you gain? What new skills, what new areas do you want to go into? And some of it doesn't have to be super technical, because I fully recognize as well that sometimes there's usually a focus on getting that one additional certification, getting that one additional diploma. But some of it might also be tied to soft skills, might be tied to getting an understanding for the industry or the sector that we're actually working in, or even if we want to pivot into another industry or another sector. But it's so important to reflect, because all those really help us gain a better understanding for ourselves, get a better understanding for what we want, but even more importantly, what we should say no to. So if we go on to this final slide that I have, and after this slide, when I'm done talking through it, we can go into questions. So again, start to get all of your questions ready. For this slide, it was, how should you be interacting with the career marketplace? So now you know how to represent yourself as a global talent. But when you now come to the marketplace, how should you be thinking about it? Again, tying back to that last point about a learning opportunity and reflecting, also really critical to develop a clear strategy. So what is your game plan? What is your plan for getting the attention of that one big employer that you absolutely that is your dream role, or you've been wanting to work there for such a long time, and so far you haven't had any breakthroughs yet, right? Again, if you think about getting the basics right, but who else do you know that works at the company? Doesn't even have to be somebody in HR, but who else do you know? How much of your network are you tapping into? How much of your profile are you working up to show some of those skills that you have that is relevant to this company as well, right? So get clear on what strategy you're employing to try and get the attention of that one recruiter, that one company, or that one job that you're so critically interested in being hired into. When I think about authentic networking, I think about giving first, more than asking. And because this one is one as well that we definitely hear a lot of. I like to think of networking as a buzzword. We're like, oh, keep networking. Oh, if you want to get better, network. But when I think of authentic networking, I think of wanting to give value first before asking. It's so critical. If you think again, especially with like folks who are already established in their careers, who maybe you're potentially reaching out to because you think that you can learn from them, it's great. But how much investing as well are you even putting in learning from them, in reading their articles, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's anywhere else, in attending their webinars, in getting to know what makes them tick, what makes it interesting, what is peculiar about them, what their value, their own personal value proposition is. Because it's only through that that you can start to draw similarities with your own self. So maybe you went to the same school with a person, and that's even how you even kick off the conversation to say, hey, I see that you went to this university. It also was my alma mater. I enjoyed working, or I enjoyed rather learning from X department, or there was this one experience that stands out when I attended this university. Was it the same for you? And then that way you start to build rapport. But something as simple as that is actually what it means when I say give value first before asking. It doesn't always have to be transactional in the sense that you're helping them get a job too, or you're helping them connect them to a potential client. Maybe you actually could be able to, but it doesn't have to be as big as that. But if you really want to make it authentic, you want to be someone who is not just approaching the conversation with wanting to take, wanting to ask, oh, can you get me a job? Or can you connect me to this person? This is someone that you might not even have met on the internet, or it's the first time you're meeting them. You have to keep in mind, or even if you're at a face-to-face event, networking event, keep in mind that it's from gathering interest in the other person. It's by wanting to learn a bit more about the other people that you're speaking to, that you can actually realize how much you can give value and what that value looks like. And then as well, when you're applying to big companies, or when you're applying to those companies that you absolutely love, that it seems like, this is where the dream is, please keep your options open. Because there really isn't any guarantee that even if you've got the basics right, you're networking properly, and you have a clear strategy, that the timelines you have in mind for getting that one big job will align with the universe. Right? So maybe you need to go do another project. Maybe you need to go work for a smaller company. Maybe you need to take on another assignment elsewhere first, with a clear eye on the long-term plan. And maybe it's that one role that you take, or that other company that you go join, that just might give you the niche skill, or help you develop that niche skill, that would then become critical and would then make it so much easier for this dream employer to actually see you, and then actually be attracted to your profile and be open to speaking to you about open vacancies. So that's another thing that sometimes I see is this almost obsession with, sometimes I see with some candidates, this obsession with one dream company, whereas maybe what we should be teasing for is, what experience do you want to get from that company? Are there other places that you can gain this experience? Are there other places that you can use this skill, that you can gain this knowledge? And then maybe try those other companies as well. Keep those options open. Spread your eggs in different baskets. Don't just put it all in the one basket and then hoping and praying and expecting. Maybe it might come through, but maybe it might not. And then keeping your options open just ensures that you continue to make progress in your career, And that regardless of wherever you are, regardless of wherever that dream company does meet you, it then becomes relevant. Find people who can hold you accountable. So again, regardless of wherever you are in your career, whether it's a coach, a one-time coach, whether it's a one-time mentor, whether it's someone who has a chat with you over the internet, or someone that you go into an actual professional relationship with, that maybe you pay them to be a coach for you, or maybe not, or maybe they offer their services as well. Try and get a couple of people who can hold you accountable to those goals, to those ideas that you have, to those objectives that you set for yourself. Make sure that you're sharing that with trusted people, a few people in your close network that are holding you accountable for it. And then keep track of where that journey takes you. And this one happens to all of us, myself included, is sometimes I forget how far I've come, because we get so fixated, we get so fixed, and so we get our eyes fixed on this one next big thing we want to hit, this one next goal that we want to achieve. We're so focused on that sometimes that we forget how far we've come. We forget how much we're even learning in this present time. So it's really, really critical as well to keep track. Again, there are a variety of ways that you can keep track of your learnings. You can write it down, you can record it, you can take pictures, you can keep a scrapbook, if you like, of that tells you where you've been or what you've been learning. You can put something as well on a Google Drive or anywhere else, right? But just make sure that you're keeping track of those things that show you how much progress you have made, because there will be days that you doubt yourself. There'll be days that you may think that the next big breakthrough is not around the corner, and just reminding yourself of how far you have come. It will be really, really critical in helping you move forward. And then finally, help someone else. Again, regardless of wherever you are in your career, you might think you don't have anything to offer, but maybe you run into somebody else who needs support, or who needs ideas, or who needs to get a sense for how they can start. And maybe you are still in the beginning phase of this strategy, but maybe that's something that you can add value on, because it's so critical to build a network of contacts. And you can successfully begin to build authentic contacts by giving. Really think of it in that way, as a symbiotic relationship that you're developing with whoever you come in contact with, because you never know. Maybe it's that person who you give back to, who might be the one who might help you connect the dots, or help you give you that one big push that you need for that breakthrough. And then you even get the opportunity to share your own ideas or share your own dreams of where you want to go with your career. So give back, really, really important as well. So these are some of my thoughts in general. What else? What else is out there? What else do you think that I missed out on? Or what else do you want to talk through? What questions and comments do you have as well? James, I'm not sure if at this point you pop in as well to discuss with, or to help take the questions, but happy to go from here based on what the participants think as well.
First and foremost, Nota, let me say, amazing presentation. Even from my point of view, I feel some of the items you listed here, you could take one master class to go through it itself, because it's so deep and so important. And I do not want people on this call to sort of just miss it, in the sense that, we just quickly went through it in 30 minutes. But of course, we can keep the conversation going after this masterclass. Please reach out to us on info@bnetlearning.com. We would love to hear from you. And Noti, of course, would continue to provide insight even after this masterclass. One thing that you said, Noti, before we go to some of the questions that we have, and I will encourage everybody on the call, please, if you have questions for Noti, please put it in the chat box, and we will take the time to provide answers today. You mentioned something about being authentic. And I was thinking about, how do you balance authenticity with adaptability, especially when you are intending to, we're talking about the global market, and a lot of people on the call today, a lot of the people on the call today are from Nigeria, from outside of their own country, and seeking to transition to another country. How do you balance this? I want to be the true person that I am built to be, but how do I then still remain adaptable to the new culture or new organization I'm going into?
So it starts with yourself, right? And these are my thoughts. It starts with you. First off, is what is your personal brand? Have you even gotten clear on who you are? Like, what are your niche skills? What is the thing that you do so well that nobody else can take from you? That it doesn't matter what company you work at or wherever you go, but it's so easily recognizable. And that can be from anything from humor, and it doesn't even have to be the one thing, but for anything from humor to how you can simplify things, to whether you've got excellent Excel skills or you can chew through data, or you're great with public speaking, or you're great with writing, communication. It could be a number of things. But you first, in my opinion, you first have to get clear with that. Of who am I? What makes me tick? What are the skills that I have as well? And then think through next, this place that I want to go to, or this new location that I want to work out from, what is important there as well? What are they looking out for professionals in my industry, in my sector? Is it the same way that I would imagine typically that it's not usually the same way, right? Like different countries have their different styles. Different regions also have their different styles of how they show up at the workplace. So start to look for what those differences are as well, right? Like what makes it, so let me give one example, for instance. In general, and this is very, very broad, but in general in Nigeria, I find that there's more of a core focus on technical expertise. So a lot of our candidates are really interested in wanting to do that one next course, that one next technical degree, or you want to go get a master's, or you want to get 2 masters, or you want to get this certification because then that shows everybody that you really know your stuff. Now, all that is great, but in another market or in another country, maybe that's not what the focus is. Maybe what is more critical is your verbal communication, or is your communication skills, for instance, right? Or even it's just your observation skills that you can actually show up somewhere. And maybe it's not about speaking up first. It's more so observing the group that you're with, and then recognizing how you can start to engage with the people that you're working with. And it's why through the presentation as well, I talked a lot about soft skills, because these are things that when we lean into and we develop, they will serve you wherever you go, whatever markets that you are in. If you're really critically thinking through how you want to break through the market, who can I speak to there? Who can I connect with? Who can I follow on LinkedIn? Who can I research online? That there are lots and lots of articles, tons and tons of information online. And if you just put in the right search word, you will start to read up and learn a bit more about this place or these locations that you want to switch to as a job candidate, right? So there's a lot of information out there, but I would really summarize as getting clear on who you are, getting clear on your vision and your strategy, and then recognizing where you're looking to pivot into and what makes that market tick as well, and then bringing them both together.
Awesome. Thank you, Noti. There's a question on strategy, and we'll take that after this question. I wanted us to go back to the initial question from Oluwatosin. And Oluwatosin is asking a question around why does HR turn people down for no apparent wrong reason, and sort of leave the candidate wondering if there's something wrong with them? You just have this feeling, I'm not enough in any interview, and sometimes that's not the case. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, no, and Oluwatosin, I totally understand. I've been there. Believe it or not, even though I work in HR, I have been a job seeker myself. I've applied to roles and I've gotten tons and tons of no's. So there are a couple of things, and because the question is very broad, it's hard for me to be able to give specifics, but there are a variety of reasons for why recruiters or HR folks will probably say no to a candidate. Sometimes it's the fact that lots of people applied into the role, applied into the vacancy, and depending on whether you got a call or you didn't get a call, there are very many nuances to why they said no to you. Generally as well, many HR folks or companies may not give you specifics about what you did or didn't do. I know that that's as from a job seeker standpoint, is really not the best way to help you improve. But there are also a variety of reasons that they typically do not like to. Most of it is tied to risk. Most of it is tied to, you don't want to give specifics because what if it becomes a legal issue as well. So many people typically shy away from that, not wanting to give a lot of detail about what you did or didn't do well as a candidate. But for some other times, is that maybe there was a top candidate in the role, maybe there was someone who did better during the interview, and then this is why they went ahead with that one candidate. Typically, though, if you feel unfairly treated in a recruiting or a hiring process, again, this is why I would say reflecting is really, really critical. It gives some insights into potentially how that workplace will be. So if you're not being treated even with a basic form of decency, so for instance, someone reaches out to you and lets you know ahead of time that you have an interview, that they keep you up to date of how the process is progressing. Then when you send an email, they respond back within a reasonable period to let you know that they're scheduling you for the next stage, or even if you've not been successful, that you get a rejection email at the end of the process. Sometimes, because again of the volume of people who have applied into the role, you might not get a very specific rejection response. You might get a more generic one. But all that really will give you an insight to how the standard process within that company is, and how much they invest into in candidate experience, or your experience as a candidate. So I wish I could speak for all the HR people in the world, but I cannot. I can only share some of what I've seen. But some of it is that it's for a variety of reasons. And then the thing to then keep in mind is if you're constantly reflecting about how you think that process went, then maybe you can get clear about what you did well, but also what you can do better for next time. And then it's totally okay to feel bad, because yes, as a job candidate, you do grieve if you do not get the role. So think of that grief process where you're in denial, you get angry, and then we essentially get to that last stage where it's acceptance. It's totally okay that you feel bad about how the process went, because again, you've invested some time and energy and resources into wanting to be selected for that role. So if you didn't get selected, it's okay. Tap yourself on the back, just keep going, and get people around you as well that can help support you, that can help listen, so you can speak to and talk through how pained you feel, but just keep going.
Interesting. Thank you, Note. And thank you, Oluwatosin, for sharing. That was a personal experience and question coming through. Note, I don't want this to be so much theoretical. And I know you've transitioned from Nigeria to Canada. We do have a lot of questions coming in already, and I know we have 10 minutes, but can you quickly just speak to what was your strategy, transitioning from Nigeria and coming into Canada, and share some insight about your experience, because that may help somebody else as well to say, if Note was able to achieve it based on this, I can also adapt our strategy as well.
Yeah. So first off, I said to myself, it was an adventure. And if you think of what an adventure is, you typically don't know what the outcome will be. You just put one foot in front of you today, you do it tomorrow, and you do it the day after, and you keep going. But when I also told myself that it was an adventure, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't think that, oh, this is the role I will need to go into, or this is the job that I must get, and it's going to be within these timelines, and this is how it would look. And then I really got clear on reaching out to people who had been there within my network, and I wanted to learn. I think this is so critical, because sometimes if we've been in one location, we assume that all that we know there is translatable anywhere else we go. But just even listening to some other people's experiences who had gone before me, I realized that it wasn't the case. So all people who seem to be succeeding, what were they doing right? And I just listened a lot. So I arrived, I didn't have a job. In fact, a wonderful Nigerian couple took me in for the first 7 weeks of landing in Ontario, Canada. And they took me around everywhere. So it was the same thing. I didn't have a driver's license there, so they took me everywhere. I got registered, I settled in, I started trying to get my driver's license. I started to apply to roles as well. I got tons and tons of no, even with my experience as a recruiter or as someone who had worked in HR. But I really just kept going. I kept asking for more information. I'll reach out to people on LinkedIn. I would try and make authentic connections. Back in the day as well, not back in the day, it's only been a couple of years. But back then, you could go anywhere. So it's not like now we're on lockdown and everyone needs to, as much as possible, communicate virtually. But I got up and I went to like welcome centers for new immigrants. I showed up to all kinds of sessions. If it was free, I was there. If there were events happening in the library, I was there as well, as much as I could manage. If it even required me to pay a little something, I would pay and I would show up to the session. And I just kept writing stuff down. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn other people's experiences. But then everything that everyone shared with me, I didn't think that everything that the one person said to me was true and was the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I was like, okay, this is what this person has said. It's hard to get a job, or, you know, Canadian work experience is really critical. But I've worked for a global company before. What did I learn from that experience? What is important as well? What should I do going forward? Where am I at as well? So that all that really pretty much led me to, for instance, doing a postgrad degree, because I wanted to make sure that I was settling in well. Some other people would arrive and decide that they want to go ahead and get any sort of job. That's also okay. But for me, I wanted to get clear on even why I was getting a job, right? So I used my postgrad full-time study to really settle in and get clear on what I really wanted, and kept applying to all the companies who I thought would need my skill. So there wasn't any one foolproof formula. And there were many, many days that I was incredibly uncertain and I didn't know how things were going to play out. But I just kept going. And I just found people around me who would support me as well through that journey.
If there was a take two, what would that be? What would you change?
If there was something I would do differently, I would not quit my job in Nigeria. I would have moved with my old job, or again, there was a really serious reason why I left that role right before I moved. But imagine that everything aligned, like the stars aligned for me, I would have carried on with my old job and settled in. Just because it was so overwhelming, like moving to a new country, new place, new time zone, new weather, everything was super new. Just having something that you know and something that feels familiar and something that you can tap into with like a network of people you've already built rapport with and who know you and know your strengths would have really been helpful when I think about it.
Amazing. Thank you. Let's run through some of the questions we have from.
I'm going to give shorter answers so that we can get through as many.
We can go through it. Okay, fair enough. Okay, the first one is from Temitope. Temitope is asking, how do you develop a clear strategy? Is it through books, or how do you do that?
It's a little bit of everything. There's no one foolproof formula, but if you went online as well and even typed in how to get clear on your strategy as a candidate, there are lots and lots of resources, lots and lots of articles that will pop up. You don't have to do every single thing, but pick your top three things that resonate with you, and then get clear. There are many personality tests online as well that are free, that if you take it, it will tell you. So there's one, and I'm just trying to think, I think it's the 30 personalities one, but it would give you a sense for where your strengths lie, what you're good at, or where your skills potentially might lie in, what roles you potentially can start to apply into. And then you can get clear on that sort of like, where do I go from here on out? So lots and lots of resources online. Books as well are super helpful. Books to help you read up on understanding the job market that you're trying to break in through, help you understand how to learn and how to improve on yourself. Lots and lots of webinars online as well, like this one, for instance, that has been offered. So information is out there. In fact, I think that the biggest challenge right now for all of us is that there's too much information out there, and sometimes it's synthesizing through all that information to figure out which one is most relevant for us. But just keep going. If you try the top three and it doesn't work, try another one. Ask people around you what they think you're good at. Ask people who are closest to you where they think your strengths lie. Ask a close friend, a close teacher, someone you've worked with, a madam or an oga or somebody that you've worked with that really took their time to help develop you, help grow you. Ask a friend, ask a peer. There's so many examples. Ask if you are someone who goes to church or you worship at a mosque. Ask people around you there as well. What have you been involved in? When you were 6 years old, what did you want to do? What was things that came naturally to you that you didn't even pay any attention to? All that builds up into who you are and what makes you uniquely you.
Amazing. I was almost going to say, one of the strategies you can implement is to never give up as well. That regardless of the very many no's you would get, and we all get no's, but we will never give up and we'll keep going. And I think that takes us to the next question from Mercy. Mercy is saying, I've been in this job for over 2 years now. And recently, I'm just feeling I'm not in the right place. Is this job really right for me? But there's a commitment from her to remain in the job, and she's halfway through it. It's just a little bit confusing. What would you say? Would you advise her to keep, just see it through, or just find, a new course, a new job, a new career? What would you say, Notte?
Sure. So you might have to speak to a professional to help you. And again, there are lots of career mentors out there, lots of career coaches, depending on where you are as well. There are a few people who offer these services free or pro bono. But you can also get clear with yourself. So you're feeling some type of way. What is that feeling? Why? What feelings come up for you? Can you keep a diary, like when you resume to work or when you start your day? And as you go through your day, what are the parts of the job that just gets you tired or just gets you a little frustrated, or you're just like, oh, I don't think I'm in the right role? So get clear on what those feelings are, and then your own personal situation as well. So when you think of breaking off the commitments, is there a financial implication? Can you cover that financial implication, for instance? What else are you going to go do? Have you gotten clear on what next you want to do? Some people will go ahead and take another diploma or take another certification or save up some money to get a financial buffer, financial support before they go off and try something else. So that way you don't get desperate or you don't get really, really frustrated, even if you leave your current role and you want to try something else. But get clear first. That's always the starting point. Starts with you. Get clear on why are you feeling this way? Why is it critical? What else do you want to do? What if you are not doing this role, what would you like to be doing? And then are there even opportunities in your current workplace to do that now? Can you volunteer your time with other organizations, even if it's not in the same industry or sector that you're currently working in, to learn that skill that you want to do? Or can you do it in your current workplace as well? Can you get together? Maybe, so there's so many people who create these employee resource groups. They get together on Fridays after work, or they come up with learning sessions for different groups. Whatever it is that you want or you feel like you want to try, find low hanging or find easy opportunities to break into that sort of industry or sector or area, and then see if you validate if you really like it, so that you're not making decisions based on feelings, because feelings come and go. And sometimes they're just an indication that something else is wrong.
I love that final point, Notte. And there are 4 pointers to our purpose in life, and it's something I could share with the group by email or for anybody connecting with us much later. One of those pointers is what frustrates you. Sometimes the frustration on our job is not because the job is not right for us. It's because we want to do it differently and we can do it differently. And it gives us an opportunity to be better, to do things probably out of the box, out of the norm that our organization would think, but we need to stay there to be able to change it and bring that to bear. So I like that point, Notte, that sometimes we don't want to just quickly get out because of emotion. We want to stay in there and see what we can change. I'll take this final question from Felicia, just because of time. Felicia says, I'm currently in the banking sector where I've spent over 12 years, and I want to transition to an international or multinational environment. What advice can you give me, Notte, now to Felicia, on how to really, excel in our new job and continue to pursue our passion?
Yes, transferable skills. What I would think that comes to mind. I'm not sure of your role at the bank, but is that same role? Do you have that same role that you're currently doing in the bank at these multinational companies that you want to transition to? Do you know anyone who even works in any of these companies? Have you gone online to even research on LinkedIn? So let's even say, for instance, you're a teller. Do they have tellers in multinational companies, right? Or is a teller job something else in a multinational company? What multinational companies exactly are you looking at? Can you come up with a list as well, so that it's not just the one place that you're trying to pivot into, but if you get any one of these 3 options or any one of these 5 options, then you'll be good. And then what transferable skills do you have? People who you follow or who you research, what about their profile? What about the work that they do you think has attracted them to being able to work at these sort of companies? is what is the strength of this bank that you're also working? Is it an international bank? Do they do business elsewhere outside of your current location? Can you go on a stretch assignment even in other locations as well? Because multinationals like when you have tried or you gain exposure in different markets, because that way it gives you a more global mindset. Are there opportunities right now that you can take advantage of? Can you work with partners in other locations? Also get clear, work with a career professional if you can, or professional resume writer to help you bring out what those transferable skills will be, what you've learned so far, and then help you design your LinkedIn profile, help you design your resume, your cover letter, talking through what you've learned and why you feel these multinational companies that you're looking at is where you want to get to next. And then this one is so important. Please update your resume, update your cover letter for the role that you're applying to. Do not use that one same resume or one same cover letter to apply to 10 of the same multinational companies, because maybe you get a call from one or two of those companies, but you also want to make sure that you're getting clear on why that company is the ideal one for you. And that will require some bit more additional research. Make sure the keywords are in your resume. Make sure you're using your cover letter to advance why you're so attracted to this one big company. And then that way you can really stand out as a candidate.
Felicia was just giving a little bit more insight, Note, and we'll wrap up in a second. I apologize that we've taken a little bit more time. That our role is different entirely to banking. She's going into almost an NGO type of role, working with the Danish Refugee Council. So it's a different role to our banking. What do you think, she needs to, and this is not cast in stone, but from your experience, just some of those nuggets you can share with her to really help her now that she's transitioning to a different role entirely?
Yeah, I'm thinking soft skills. Again, some of what I talked through with this presentation, soft skills will take you anywhere, regardless of industries that you're switching, but also get clear as well within the not-for-profit industry. What are the core skills that are critical there? I know one of the strengths that is required in that sector is fundraising, right? Or getting investors and getting partners, because seeing as you don't have any one primary source of making income and you have programs that you want to roll out, you also want to make sure as well that you're able to build partnerships. So that's a skill that maybe you've learned where you currently are, or maybe you don't even know how, but you can start to do more research in that area. You can find other accomplished professionals who are good at being able to raise funds or being able to get partners on board, being able to design what the value proposition of something is that attracts value from other clients or other partners. But all that will be things that I would say get clear on. Write it down if you need to, whether you're writing on your laptop or you're writing on a piece of paper, but get clear on what those skills look like. And anyone that maybe you admire in that not-for-profit space, what is it about them that gets you, that makes you admire that person? What do they do really well? What do you see them post about? Or what do you see them talk about? What do you see them write about? All these things are really, really important, because that way it will help you understand how you can help yourself stand out. Also do more research as well into Danes and Danish folks. How is their culture different from the Nigerian culture? Where are there similarities? How can you start to build that sort of like bridge between the skills you've learned, and I'm assuming that you're Nigerian, but the skills that you've learned as a Nigerian that are transferable into the Danish culture as well, or some of the things that maybe are just a little odd or is a culture shock for you, but all these will be things that makes it relevant, and then you can start to connect the dots across the board.
Awesome. Thank you, Note. And to Felicia, funny enough, reach out to us. We did put that on the chat, info@brilliantlearning.com. The funny thing, Note, just to say, I did work in Denmark for about 3 years, and I did volunteer for the refugee community in Denmark. So I can share for sure some experience with Felicia. I haven't done a little bit in that country. All right, I think we'll wrap up
if I could
today.
just say, if I could just even add just that one example, Felicia, maybe to all the other participants even on this call. This is the reason why a network is super critical. Because if Felicia didn't join this session, for instance, and didn't ask this question, didn't have the courage to come forward and say, here's where I'm confused, or here's where I'm a little stuck and I need support, then maybe we would not even have known that James had any experience in that sort of sector. So that's kind of how, like, if you get started with a process and you're trying to think of the very end, then you get analysis paralysis and you won't make any decisions. But if you get started and you start to find like-minded individuals to support you, then you can actually get the information that you're needing, and then you can also get the opportunities to add value back as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Nate, I'll give you just 1 minute to wrap up on your side and final words from you before we close today.
Super. Yes. So I love what you said earlier on, and this is what I want to wrap up with: is resilience is super critical, especially for us on this side of the world. There are many assumptions, very many wrong assumptions of who we are, of what we're able to do, of the capacity, of our ability, of what we're able to achieve. So you've got to be that person who, regardless of the experience that you get into or you find yourself in, you're able to take the learnings. And if it gets to a point where you feel that you can no longer go forward, then make that tough decision to move elsewhere or try something new and just keep going. Surround yourself with people who would encourage you, surround yourself with people who will hold you accountable to those goals that you have, but really lean into the resilience. There will be tough days, and that's okay. Go through those tough days, but the very next day, get back in again, get back in the game, and just keep going.
Awesome. Awesome. Nate, I want to say a very, very big thank you for taking the time. I know you're very busy, but we called on you and you answered us. And we want to say from the entire BNet team, thank you for joining the session. I've been tremendously blessed with your presentation. I know I will stay in touch with you to learn more. And I'm sure a lot of the people on this call will do the same. Just final word from us at BNet Learning. Please be reminded that BNet Learning is committed to your professional development. Please reach out to us on info@bnetlearning.com. As I said at the beginning of this masterclass, we do offer training on business analysis, project management, data analysis. So please reach out to us and we can share with you on our next training. Also, you can reach us on our social media handle. It's at BNet Learning, whether be it on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Again, Nate, I want to say thank you. And to everyone that joined the call today, I want to say thank you so very much, everyone, for joining. It's been an amazing, amazing, amazing session. And I want to say thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.